girl.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good too. What's been on your mind?
So a whole lot of a lot
Yeah.
and a whole lot of nothing.
That's how it usually goes.
Yeah. Overall though, I feel like this year so far. What are we? 2 weeks in?
Yeah, 2 weeks in. I think this is going to be the third week.
Yeah. It's been good. We had our vision boards with the youth
Mhm.
and that was fun. And so last year we had Bible college on in December. Bible college in December. The teacher gave us homework, and so we had to finish the book that we had. And as I was reading the book the other day, something really stood out to me, and I was like, oh, we should talk about it on the pod. So it was like a little section called spiritual seasons, and it was talking about how there's different spiritual seasons. So this is what it said. It said spring is a time of rapid growth, summer a time of enjoying God's blessings, fall a time when a Christian backslides because no one walks in perfect obedience and harmony all the time. And winter is the most difficult. It's a time when our world seems dark, our faith grows cold, God seems distant, and we just don't feel God's presence. And it's kind of crazy if you think about it, because it's like there's obviously like the seasons, winter, summer, all of that. But we go through these seasons spiritually all the time, And we always talk about like being in different seasons and different moments in our lives, But it just really stood out to me that in the book it literally said no one walks in perfect obedience always. Like, you may be in a season of spring right now, but it doesn't mean it's always going to be spring, And I feel like I wanted to talk about it because we get so discouraged when we're in a season of fall or winter, and we feel like God has left us, but it's just a season.
Yeah. And I feel like since you're talking about it in like weather wise, like this, like the literal seasons, I kind of want to emphasize this. Like we were just talking about how right now, the week of Christmas, it was hot, it was up to the 80s. So I kind of want to touch on that sometimes our seasons, I feel like also in our spiritual life, that tends to happen as well. Whenever we're like in a season where we think like, oh, we should have warm weather, like boom, just like something like out of nowhere, the most random is we can have like a cold, front, you know what I mean? Whenever we're in winter, summer can like creep in, and then like, we can see like the beauty of being in that season. So I feel like, just as the way that the weather literally is so spontaneous and so random, I feel like that could also, happen in our spiritual life. You know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy because we literally just had a cold front. It went from like randomly hot in January to like it's cold now. And that's literally how it is. Like, that was such a good, that was so good. Because I feel like sometimes, like, how, like, a few episodes ago, I had a wave of, like, feeling depressed. And I asked you to pray for me, And that week was just super hard for me. Yeah. But it was just a moment. It was just a season, a cold front, And it's crazy because I feel like it's important to know these things, because if we don't know these things, it's easy to let this small season push you away and leave.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why like just like we get prepared in like real time, and like the weather aspect of like, oh, for example, maybe closet, maybe there's people out there that they I remember this was whenever I was in my childhood, my mom, the way that she would arrange our closet, it's like, okay, winter's coming along, so let's take out all of the summer and put all of the winter things, take out of the sweaters, take out like the big blankets, your jackets, and be like, that would be the first thing that when you open your closet, those will be the first things that you see. And then whenever we're transitioning to like spring, summer, she takes out all of the jackets, all of the knits, and she puts like dresses and like things to prepare for like summer. And I feel like we should do the same thing too, whenever we are in a good season, like everybody will know that in their own personal way, like what's a good season for you whenever you feel like you're in summer per se. I feel like that should take I feel like we should be preparing for winter because it's gonna come. Just like,
Yeah.
here, like in like literal, like in our weather, like we know that summer is coming. Like even though right now we're in the cold, right now it's cold, it's getting dark early, like, but we know that summer's going to come along, and we know that the days are going to be extended. So if you
Mm-hmm.
are in a winter season and you feel that there's like, it just feels cold and dry in your spirit, know that there's going to be a summer. Prepare for that summer because it is going to come. Just like you know for sure as a fact that summer is coming in the literal aspect of weather, know that God is going to come up and warm you with his presence. And so I feel like we should have that aspect as well. And just like circling back to what I said about how my mom would arrange our closets, the same thing too, like we should always kind of like have some preparation, you know what I mean? Because whenever you're in summer and things are going good, you don't stop praying, you don't stop seeking the word. Like, no, you continuing like to be molded or seeking God, being in his
Yeah.
presence, because just like we know with the little weather, winter will come, or a season of fall will come into your spiritual life. So always kind of like rearrange yourself, always be equipped, and always kind of like be aware that seasons are not forever, and that we always have to have moments of
Mm-hmm.
preparation, because or and even moments of like spontaneous things, you know what I mean? Just like I mentioned, it was hot
Yeah.
during the winter, like in the week of Christmas of all weeks, and so I feel like that could also be literal in our spiritual life. We can be like, oh, out of all weeks, why am I getting this spiritual attack? Why am I going through this warfare? You know what I mean? So I feel like the weather, I feel like
Yeah.
I love how God kind of like made it kind of like together, because I feel like the weather is a good example that nothing lasts forever. We always have to have a preparation season, and that anything can happen no matter what season you're in.
Yeah. That's crazy. When you were talking, it reminded me of what Margarito
Mm.
told me when you came. He said, um, you know how you said like be ready for like
Mm-hmm.
spontaneous things? He was like, you have to be like able to pivot when
Yeah.
things don't go your way. And that really like
Yeah.
stood out to me, and it just reminded me right now, like when things are getting hard, when things aren't looking like you
Mm-hmm.
expected them to look, be
Yeah.
willing to pivot, but
Mm-hmm.
stay faithful to what God calls us to do. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love how
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
connecting.
But yeah, like I would say, but I kind of want to ask, like, was there like any more in depth that they went with the lesson, or like with the homework assignment with, yeah, if you want to get
Yeah.
into that.
Yeah, it says, okay, so it wrote, well, the assignment was like a 3-page essay and
Mm-hmm.
read the whole book, which is kind of crazy. But I'm glad he made us read the whole book, because when I got to this part, it was just so impactful. And I was like, this is so good, because we talk about seasons all the time, but it's like, what
Right.
even are
Mm-hmm.
seasons? Like when we're like, oh, I'm going through a rough
Yeah.
season. But it wrote down like the spring, summer, but it really emphasized on the
Mm.
fall and the winter, which I feel like is because obviously spring and summer is fun and it's
Mm-hmm.
easy, right? But fall and winter is not easy. And it says the season of fall is when we learn the habits of the Christian life, and when we let habits slide, so do we. There's no such thing as a healthy Christian who does not worship weekly, devote daily, serve willingly, give generously, and share the gospel expectantly. And that's deep, because it says there's no such thing as a
Yeah.
healthy Christian. That's the key word, healthy Christian, because we can all be Christian.
Yeah.
Everybody's Christian nowadays. But a healthy Christian is somebody who truly
Mm-hmm.
follows God,
Mm-hmm.
every single day, is actively
Yeah.
seeking. And like it says that when we let our habits slide, so
Mm-hmm.
do we. So, like, you know how I had that hard week and I told
Mm-hmm.
you that I didn't read? It was so crucial for me the following week to pick up my Bible again, because yeah, I had a rough week, but it doesn't mean that I'm not gonna like pick up where I left
Yeah.
off. You know what I mean? And it's it's normal to have hard moments. There's things that happen in life, like we get sick, we feel very dismotivated, we mess up, we fall into sin, and then we no longer feel worthy of even picking up the Bible. But it's very important that you keep
Yeah.
picking up the Bible. Don't let the habit slide, because if the habits slide, so
Mm-hmm.
do you.
Yeah.
And then it says, why does God allow us, okay, so this is winter. It's like, why does God allow us to go through seasons of winter with no feelings? And it says, it is so we will learn to walk by faith and not by our feelings. And that's also deep, because it's like, God, I feel like God gives
Mm-hmm.
us the seasons, right? And it's not because he doesn't love us that we go through a season of winter. It's because he loves us, and he wants to know if we're serious. He wants to know, do you really have faith? Like, if I take this away, are you going to remain
Yeah.
firm? Kind of like Job. Like, he allowed Job to go through everything he went through, which, yeah, like, God allowed Satan to do that to
Yeah.
Job. And that's the thing. Like, if we, Pastor was talking about this today, but he's like, God will give you these
Yeah.
seasons. He says sometimes he will either allow Satan to test your faith, or it's because we messed up and he needs
Yeah.
to discipline us. But whatever the reason is, like, it's good.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's like, yeah, it's like, so we're not emotional about it, but it's like, do you truly
Mm-hmm.
walk by faith?
Yeah. And I feel like, just like you mentioned, like God has his like reasonings, and his reasonings are because how much he loves us. I feel like I want to encourage people to read Genesis so you can truly know the love that God has for us. It just gives so much examples of like the way that humanity has gone against the Lord, has gone against like what he established for us, and yet he always tries to seek the good. He always tries to take the good out of us so we can be able to execute that. Like, yes, there was a moment where he came and gave the big storm in the story of Noah, but it was for like our own good, because if you just read all of the things that humanity was doing, like, he wasn't mad, he was weeping, he was like really sad. He was like, I need to do a cleansing, because this is just like, there's no way to like continue on with like just like, for example, try to take a dirty cup and like try to put fresh water. You're not going to want to drink it because it's going to get contaminated. You're going to see so many things in it. So what do? You have to like wash it out. You have to rinse it out, you know what I mean, in order to be able to receive, like, to be able to actually like receive fresh water in you, you know what I mean? And so that's the same thing with with what happened on earth, but the Lord, he still had mercy, and he was like, I'm gonna save Noah and his family, and then again populated the earth. So like time after time after time, it started with humanity going against the Lord first. It wasn't God of like just out of nowhere everything was at peace and he was like, boo, I'm gonna do this. No, like humanity went against the Lord and did something, or there was just like a dysfunction, and so he was like, okay, we're gonna start again, we're gonna start again, over and over and over. He gives us that opportunity, and then he brought Jesus, you know what I mean? He came down, he became flesh, so he can be like, okay, I need to know to the extent what humanity is feeling and everything. And so now that's why we have that direct connection with the Lord. And so that's what I love about God, is like each day or each time, he always has a solution to like save us. You know what I mean? So that's why that right now that we are in this grace period,
Yes.
we need to take advantage of it, because we don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow, that could be gone. You know what I mean? So that's why like we are,
Yes.
you know, that's what the Lord like is wanting us to like, you know, spread the gospel and all that, because he is trying to avoid anything else. You know what I mean? And so luckily with Jesus, you know, we have this time, like I mentioned, this grace period. And so since we have it, we need to, for those that are in the walking in the presence, let's not keep it to us. It's extended, so there can be more numbers of like the good with Jesus than the numbers of like the devil trying to have a hold on us, you know?
Yeah. And that's the thing about God, is that it's all
Yes.
about love. Like,
Yeah.
he loves us. He is rooting
Literally.
for us, even when we're we're
Yeah.
in sin, you know, even when we are doing the exact opposite. Like, he wants us. He wants a relationship with you. He wants you to do good, you know. We're the ones that stop ourselves, and when we listen to the lies of the enemy, like, we're the ones that are preventing ourselves from going deeper with God. But the reality is that God
Yes.
wants to know you. He wants to know you, and he's going to do anything to reach you. You know, he literally leaves the 99 for the one. And at one point I was the one, you know. There's no shame in being the one. It's good, you know, and he will come for you, but he just needs a willing heart. He needs to, like, just want it, you know, because it's always going to be hard. But he wants you, and I feel like, I don't know, that just feels so intentional. Like, know that he wants to know you deeper, and just because you're doing things you shouldn't be doing doesn't mean that he doesn't love you, because he does. It all goes down to love. And I think this book kind of really opened my eyes to that, because the book was called Dream Church, and the whole book was about, like, you know, having the dream church, and like there was so many different topics, but it really highlighted the importance of community, you know. And I feel like I was in a moment where, like I told you, I went from being a student to, like, that weird transition of, like, only receiving to now going out and helping people. You know, God commissioned us to go out and make disciples. So church isn't always going to be what it was at the beginning. You know, there's going to be a moment where now you already know the truth. You already know the good news, and you are responsible for going and spreading it, you know? And I feel like there's a season for everything. You know, there's a season where you grow, where you learn, where you get prepared and equipped. And then there's a season where you transition into going and bringing people and helping them and guiding them, so they can get to a point where they can go and get more people, you know. And that's the be fruitful and multiply,
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
multiplying.
Yeah, exactly. And there was like, because I remember that in the beginning you mentioned, oh no, never mind, this was actually in the previous episode. So I was editing and I saw how you said that you read Genesis multiple times, and each time you will receive like a different revelation or like a message. And that's what I love about, you know, the Bible, is that it's so, like, you can read it at any time, at any season. It can be the same verse that maybe you read in the winter, but then you read it in the summer, it's going to be a whole different revelation, or vice versa. You read it in your season of time of, like, you know, going through a spiritual warfare, but it reads just like the pastors always say, like, the Bible reads you, and it's so, like, how can I say it? Like, it doesn't lose the trend, or there's another word for it, but like it never gets like it's always like so current, and it's alive. Like, that's how you know, like, the word is alive, because whenever you read it speaks to you at any season that you are in. So that's what I love about, like, rereading certain things.
Yeah, it's never not. You were like not trendy? Is that what you were trying to go for?
No, it was another word, but yeah, like, I feel like it never
Like it's
Yes.
always gonna
Yeah.
hit, no
Mm-hmm.
matter what season you're on in. Yeah, I also was thinking, you know how you said that we all have like our favorite season, um and how like some people enjoy summer and some people enjoy spring. It's kind of funny because I feel like my favorite season is like fall
Mm-hmm.
and winter. And it's funny because I always talk about the
Yeah.
beauty of pain. And I feel like it kind
Yeah.
of goes, like I feel like it's not that I enjoy going through these seasons, but I see the beauty in them and I see the importance in them. Kind of like someone who sees summer, like that's their push to like keep going. But I feel like in my season of like winter and fall, like that's where I see the
Yeah.
most growth. That's where I see like
Yeah.
the push through. So I feel like all the seasons are
Yeah.
different for everyone, but I do know that a lot of people don't like winter and a lot of people don't like fall. And I feel like those are the difficult seasons where you just got to keep pushing through. You're not always going to enjoy every season, but through them all we just have to keep pushing through and keep moving forward and keep our eyes on Jesus, because that's it. If you move your eyes from Jesus, that's when things begin to get difficult. But if you keep your eyes on Jesus through every season, then you're not gonna
Yeah.
go away. You're not gonna leave, because you know the commitment that
Mm-hmm.
you made with
Yeah.
Jesus.
And then like also like not being so hard on yourself whenever you do mess up, because I feel like it is
Mm-hmm.
hard because of the world that we live in to continue like our relationship. It's so easy to like, oh, today I came home late, so I'm gonna, instead of maybe your 30 minutes, you're gonna do like a quick prayer, or today like, like in our minds we really just don't have time, and then that turns into a day, that turns into like a week and a month, and going from there. But I feel like as long as you like, but that's what I love about God, that sometimes he stops us in our tracks, and we have to be willing to like also stop ourselves from our tracks. And the reason why I'm saying this example is because last week of the time that we were recording this, I had my first ESL class as a teacher, and there was this one student that she had to read like a short sentence, and there was this one word that she couldn't read, but then she stopped herself, and like you could see in her face that she was like, okay, this isn't right. She thought about it, and then the second time she said it correctly, and then she finished on the entire
Mm-hmm.
sentence. And I feel like that kind of goes with our walk, you know what I mean? Like, we're gonna mess up, but if we just take a moment of like realizing that and analyzing that and reflecting, be like, okay, I messed up, and then once you have that realization, and once you have kind of like that realness with God, then the second time that you try, you're going to succeed. You know what I mean? But I feel like it takes a willing
Yeah.
heart of wanting to pause, analyze, and be like, wait, this was wrong, let me do
Yeah.
that again, or whatever the situation is, and then you're going to succeed. But it takes being raw with the Lord, because I feel like that process, like, obviously it was just reading a word, so it doesn't like, it wasn't that deep. But but I feel like it's a good example when you put
Yeah.
it into your spiritual life. Like, okay, like I need to stop, analyze it, give it to God, be real, and then that second time that you do it with the Lord, you're going to succeed. You know what I mean? So that kind of came to mind.
Yeah. No, and that's so important because if we don't, like, we can say be real with yourself, analyze your heart, but there's a difference with saying it and
Yes.
actually doing it, because when you're being real with yourself, you are opening up to the fact that you were wrong. And I feel like sometimes we don't want to
Yeah.
admit that we're wrong. And the other day I was having a conversation, and someone said they think they're right. We were talking about like people in the church and how um I don't know, she just said they think they're right, and it made me think of the fact that we justify our sin because we show up to
Mm.
church every Sunday. We justify our actions because we're serving. You
Yes.
know what I mean? And it's like the Bible is the Bible. The word of God is the word of God. And sometimes because we just show up every day and somebody doesn't show up every day, we think that we're doing better because they're not going to church, but I'm going to church. And I feel like that's where it's like, be real with yourself. Church attendance isn't what's going to get you to heaven. You know, it's that sword cutting off the flesh that's gonna
Mm-hmm.
transform us. The word of
Mm-hmm.
God transforms us. And I feel like sometimes we just modify the Bible to fit our
Yeah.
agenda. There's moments where we're doing things wrong, but we're like, well, I'm still going to church, I'm still serving, I'm still praying, so it
Mm-hmm.
must be okay. But it's like, if you're living with unforgiveness in your heart and you're doing all of these things, then it's all in vain because you're living with unforgiveness in your
Yeah.
heart. If we don't forgive, God's
Mm-hmm.
not going to
Yeah.
forgive us. And it goes with everything, not just unforgiveness. That's just what came into my mind. But everything, like, we need to, that's what I mean when be real and raw with yourself. Like, acknowledge the fact that you're not forgiving, because that's in the Bible. We can't just, like, it's time to stop doing that. God is coming back, and one day we're going to give an account for everything we ever did in this world. you know and it's really that deep. It's very important for us to analyze our hearts. There's a verse that says, like, I don't know what it says, but it talks about, like, examining yourself. I don't know. Oh, examine your heart, and if it doesn't, my mom said it the other day in Spanish. I don't know what the verse is, guys, sorry. But it talks about, like, examining yourself, and that's what it means, making being honest with everything that's inside of there and bringing it to light. And it's
Yeah.
hard, it's not easy. Like, that's why a lot of people don't do it, because it's not an easy thing to
Yeah.
do.
And then I feel like, just like you mentioned, that, just going to church isn't what takes you to heaven. I feel like there's always like three categories of like a person's life. Maybe, like, for example, there's people that believe that, oh, I don't have to go to church, I don't have to have a relationship, I just have to be a good person, you know what I mean? Like, and then they think that's it. And
Mm-hmm.
then there's like the second type of people where they're like, just like you said, they just go to church, they just do a routine, they just leave it at that, and kind of like lukewarm, I guess you can say. But they believe like, oh, well, I'm going to church, I'm going to
Yeah.
Sunday, so that's enough. And then there's the other category where
Mm-hmm.
it's like they're truly seeking the Lord, where they're taking him, into their in between, into their prayer closet, into their private moments, to work, to school, and all that. And I feel like, obviously, like, being in the first two categories is very dangerous, but there is people that truly believe that, you know what I mean? So that's why I feel like God brings these seasons. I feel like that's why God, does certain things, especially with our lives, because he needs to show his glory. Because at the end of the day, like, those that have a relationship with God, we have the realization that we are vessels, and that he needs to be glorified, and that his light needs to shine through us. And so sometimes whenever we do go through a
Mm-hmm.
certain season, sometimes it's not even for us, sometimes it's for other people to be able to be reached, you know what I mean? And so but I feel like, just like I mentioned, in one episode, whenever you are part of a community, God kind of like, whenever he's working in you, in reality, it's kind of like a domino effect. I feel like God does like a domino effect, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, kind of like, for example, in the story of like Joseph, you know what I mean? Like, Joseph was blessed in that aspect, but then because he was blessed, he was able to form the plan to be able to prepare for whenever it was going to be like the dry season. And so his family didn't die, and like, obviously, like, that descended, David came from that descendant, and then Jesus came from that descendant. I think I'm saying the word wrong, but you get what I'm saying. And so I feel like that's the same
Yeah.
thing that he's doing with like our lives. Sometimes, just like I mentioned, sometimes right now it won't make sense what's going on, but you don't know like what's going to happen in like the future. Like for example, Joseph like did not knew that he had to go through all of this, and you know, had to go through like certain things in his life, because I feel like in reality it led him to be able to live the life that God exactly needed him to live, because that's where Jesus was going to come from, you know what I mean? So that's why like it's very important for us to kind of like realize like God is here to bless us and to love us, but because we are all connected in some way, and he's just that good, you know, just like I mentioned, he's a God that works with like both hands. I feel like that's his way of like connecting us, because since we are vessels, we are giving ourselves to him. So he was like, perfect, so I can knock two birds with one shot. I think maybe that's not a good example, but it's you guys get what I'm saying. Like I feel like it's a good way, you know.
No, no, yeah, and I feel like that's the thing about God. Like he sees the whole picture. We only see what's right in front of us. And everything works out perfectly with him. Like he's working in my life, but what I do is going to help someone else because he's also working on their life, and vice versa, you know. That's why it's very important that like the decisions you make affect the people around you, you know, because God is working with everyone at the same time. We don't realize it because we're just going through our own personal thing, but we don't realize the impact that we're making, you know? And it's kind of crazy because I've been thinking about that a lot. Like God, sometimes we feel like we get caught in that church routine, you know, that routine of like doing everything, but it's like God is very intentional with everything. You know, today we were at English service, and it's very easy to just, you know, get in that routine like, oh, we're going to sing, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Well, we went up there and I totally forgot that I was opening service until like we were about to start. So I started the service and God just kind of took over, you know. It was just a little introduction. He kind of led me, then we prayed. And then we were singing, and then Chande, it was his turn. I mean, he just started emceeing. And once we got off the stage, we were in the back, and I was like, it's awesome how God just equips us in the moment, you know? Like, it was ordinary things, like you were saying, you know, ordinary things that we do, but God used them. And he was like, yeah, like everything I said went into the next song. And I was like, oh, you didn't do that on purpose? And he's like, no. And it's like, wow, like God was there. We were just vessels, you know. He equipped us in the moment to do what he needed us to do, you know. And I feel like sometimes we don't realize the impact we're making even in our normal conversations, because I feel like the more we hang out with like the church people, the more that like we feel like our words aren't as important because everyone's hearing them, you know. Like these are things we hear all the time, you know, the Bible stories, everything, we hear it all the time because we're in this community. But when somebody from the outside comes in and they hear it, like it's life changing, it's transformative, you know. But we don't even realize the impact that it's making because we're so used to the church culture, you know what I mean? But it's like everything is so important. And I feel like I think that's one of my goals this year, to be more intentional with everything that I do, because God is using all these moments and we just don't even realize it, you know. And I don't want to say something wrong because I'm just messing around, you know. Like we're joking around, we're saying dumb things, you know, and it's like, whoa, like maybe you shouldn't have said that, you know. I think I just want to be more intentional.
No, that's pretty good, because I feel like you saying that with your experience with Shonda, I feel like it kind of reminded me of how we say, like, another example that I always like to say is that we're instruments. So one instrument, you know, like the piano, it like it's consistive of like several keys. So I feel like you were one key, and so the Lord pressed on it, so he was like, let me go to the next key. And so it, like, that's why I mentioned, like, I feel like you guys were kind of like God's instrument, and God was like playing music, you know what I mean, through you guys. And so that's what it kind
Wow.
of like pictured in my mind. I was like, that is so beautiful, you know what I mean? Being able to be part of his like orchestra, you know what I mean? And so yeah, like I don't know, even
Oh,
talking about this just kind of like warmed my heart. And yeah,
dude,
yeah,
I
like
feel
I don't
it.
know, it's just so yes.
That's so beautiful.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, me
I want
too.
to
Me too.
cry.
I was like, should we take a moment of silence right now? Yeah, like yeah, it's like so beautiful.
That
Yeah.
was so
Yeah,
awesome.
so wow, like just thinking of being part of his, orchestra, just being part of like him creating music and him just using us and filling us with his presence. I think it's just so beautiful. And wow. I don't know. Like I just feel God's presence right now. Like I feel like God is just kind of like, using this platform. Yeah.
Like we're being
Like
instruments
he's
right
playing
now.
music right now, and I think it's so beautiful. And I feel so, so privileged. And I don't know, like wow, like just the way that he kind of like, I don't know. I think it's because I feel yeah.
That was such a beautiful It was such a beautiful
Yeah.
illustration, and even him revealing that to you right
Yeah.
now is like
Yeah.
him
Yeah, yeah,
doing it,
yeah, literally. And I feel like whenever I, get in touch with the Lord, I feel like my words, you know what I mean? I feel like it doesn't come out because there's just so much emotions whenever you're in the presence. There's so much emotions that
Yeah.
sometimes there isn't words to describe the beauty of God. You know what I mean? The beauty of his revelations, of whenever
Yeah.
he hugs you, whenever he gives you just like, his presence. I feel like, at least for me, like I'm always like trying to like scramble words, because in reality there is no words to describe his beauty. But just as humans, we're trying our best, and trying to give you guys a glimpse, but we want you to experience it on
Yeah.
your own, you know what I mean? So that's why, like, we
Mhm.
encourage you, just like I mentioned, read Genesis. Ask God to reveal what else should I read, so you can know that the love that he has for you. And like everything that we described, that
Yeah.
we said, like, oh, just like right now, feeling his presence, we want you guys to feel it as well. So take this as an encouragement to seek him for
Mhm.
your own understanding, to seek him for, like, he's gonna be so personal to you. And so yeah, I don't know, I think we just kind of have like a moment. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yes.
It's awesome how
Yeah.
God
Yeah.
works. I don't know, it's funny how you said that we scramble for words, because I feel like explaining like our experiences with God are all so
Mm-hmm.
different, because there
Yeah.
are no words. You said there are no
Mm-hmm.
words to describe it. We do the best we can to even catch a glimpse
Mm-hmm.
of what it
Mm-hmm.
is. But and that's why everyone's way of speaking is so different, because we're all just trying to figure out how to explain something that's
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
inexplainable.
exactly. Yeah, so so yeah, that was good. So that was good. But I feel like I'm trying to catch myself. Yeah.
Bro, I feel like that's like a
Yeah.
whole mic drop. I feel like
Yes.
that was it. This is over. But no, yeah, if anything, just remember that
Mm-hmm.
God loves you so
Mm-hmm.
much. You are so loved, and he wants
Mm-hmm.
to know you. And he wants you to know him. It's not hard to build a relationship with God. It's
Yes.
just looking for him. He's always speaking to us, and he's always trying to get our attention. We just have
Mm-hmm.
to pay attention. And that's it. Any small little prayer, like after you're done, or even pause this right now and ask God, like, I want
Mm-hmm.
to know you, help me hear you, and he will. We just have to be here. We have to have our eyes open and our ears open. It says those who have eyes to see will see, and those who have ears to hear
Yeah.
will hear. It's just zooming out of our own personal ways, and just like seeing, kind of like zooming out, I guess, seeing the bigger picture. And you will see him, you know. It's just
Yeah.
quit being so selfish, if
No,
that
yeah.
makes sense. You know, because I feel like we're so selfish, we're so
Mm-hmm.
self-centered. Maybe quit being so
Mm-hmm.
self-centered instead of selfish, because I feel like we live in this world of like, oh, it's
Mm-hmm.
our world, you know, it's our life, it's our circumstances. But it's like, if you zoom out a little bit, you can see that he's
Yeah.
always
Yeah,
working.
definitely. Yeah, that's true. So that's why, just like Crystal said, like if you need to pause this video or even after this video, whatever case may be, just reach out to him. He's always there listening. He's always there, waiting for us to open the door to him. And so I just want to glorify him and exalt him for all that he's doing. You know what I mean? Because there's a reason why you guys are listening, because he's this is his way of trying to reach out, you know what I mean? And so take that, take his
Yeah.
hand, and what you're going through, what you need, and he is the answer, and he is the key to give you exactly what you need. And sometimes what we think we need isn't what we need, and trust me, like he's going to exceed our expectations, you know what I mean? So he's just like ready to bless us,
Yes.
ready to mold us, and just like preparing us for his second coming, you know what I mean? And so, just like I said, let's just take advantage, and we're gonna keep on praying. Many prayer requests are always welcome our way. And so, yeah, that's it from me. Yeah.
Yeah, girl, that
Yeah.
was it. That was so
Mm-hmm.
good. I love this little meeting that the Holy Spirit
Yes.
decided
Yes.
to join us in.
Yeah, definitely.
I hope that I hope that y'all
Mm-hmm.
felt it. It was just, I don't know, like,
Yeah.
wow. It's awesome how he just reveals
Yeah.
in the moment,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
That was so wonderful. God is awesome. And we want you to experience him, cuz
Mm-hmm.
it's life-changing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
everything changes, you know. It's just having that
Mm-hmm.
encounter with Jesus, and literally nothing's going
Yeah.
to look the same anymore.
Yeah, absolutely not. So yeah, so hopefully you guys felt something. Hopefully you guys got encouraged to seek the Lord, because he is definitely there. He sees you, he hears you. And so I feel like with that note, we're gonna go ahead and, end the episode here. Thank you so much for watching and tuning in. And so of course you guys are able to listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and you guys are able to reach out to us here in the comments or all in our social medias. And so we'll see you. Well, actually, I will see you, Crystal, next time. Bye, girl.